I stood in my office for the last time, staring at the wall where my MBA diploma used to hang. 5 years of dedication reduced to a cardboard box of personal items and a resignation letter. The golden nameplate on my desk, Savannah Wheeler, VP of Operations, caught the morning light one final time before joining the rest of my life's work in that box. My name is Savannah, and until yesterday, I was the driving force behind Wheeler and Sons Manufacturing, my family's legacy. Now I'm just another cautionary tale about trusting blood over merit. You can't seriously be leaving, my mother Angelina said from the doorway, her voice cracking. Your grandfather will come around. He has to. I continued packing, refusing to meet her eyes. Come around? Like he did when I doubled our profits last quarter? Or when I landed the Morrison contract that saved us during COVID? Sweetheart, you know how traditional he is. Ernest is the oldest male. Ernest can't tell a balance sheet from a birthday card, Mom. The family photo on my desk crashed into the box with more force than necessary. He spent last week's board meeting playing Candy Crush under the table. Savannah! She stepped closer, reaching for my arm. I jerked away, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Don't. You sat there silent while Grandpa Miguel announced Ernest as his successor. You watched him hand over everything I built to someone who views this company as his trust fund. A knock at the door interrupted us. Susan, my best friend and head of marketing, stood there with coffee and concern written all over her face. Your grandfather's asking for you in the conference room. Tell him his true heir can handle whatever it is, I said, taping up my box. Honey, please, Mom pleaded. Just talk to him. Maybe we can work something out. I finally looked at her. Really looked at her. There's nothing to work out. Ernest gets the crown because he was born with the right parts, and I get to watch everything I've built turn to dust under his leadership. Susan stepped in, placing the coffee on my now bare desk. What will you do? A smile spread across my face. Not warm, not kind, but determined. What I do best. Build something better, something mine. I picked up my box and walked to the door, pausing only briefly. Mom, tell Grandpa Miguel I said congratulations. He finally got what he wanted. A male heir to carry on the Wheeler name. Let's see how long that name stays worth carrying. The elevator doors closed on my mother's tears and Susan's worried face. As I descended from the 20th floor, my resolve hardened with each passing number. They wanted a true heir? Fine. I'd show them exactly what they'd thrown away. 3 months after walking out of Wheeler and Sons, I sat across from Susan at our favorite coffee shop, spreading documents across the table. My laptop displayed the business plan I'd spent countless sleepless nights perfecting. You're really doing this, Susan said, scanning the papers. Starting a competing company right in their backyard. I took a sip of my Americano. Not competing, innovating. Wheeler and Sons is stuck in the 1980s because Grandpa Miguel won't modernize. I'm going to do what they wouldn't let me do there. Ernest called me yesterday, Susan said carefully, watching my reaction. Wanted to know where the Morrison contract paperwork was filed. I couldn't help but laugh. In the same place it's been for 2 years, the shared drive under major accounts. He's been there 4 months and still can't find basic files? The board meeting was apparently a disaster. He presented last quarter's numbers. And? They were from 2021. I pressed my lips together, fighting the urge to feel satisfied. How's Mom handling it? She misses you. They all do, even if they won't admit it. Susan leaned forward. But forget them. Talk me through this business plan. You're really going all in on sustainable manufacturing? I pulled up the prototype designs on my laptop. Everything Wheeler and Sons should have been doing years ago. Solar-powered facilities, zero-waste processes, ethical sourcing. I've already got 3 investors interested. Holy shit, Susan whispered, looking at the numbers. These projections are conservative, I finished. I know this industry inside and out. I know where the gaps are, what clients want, what the future looks like. Ernest is still trying to figure out how to turn on his computer. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Please call. Your grandfather wants to talk. I showed it to Susan, who raised an eyebrow. You going to respond? Nothing to say. I turned my phone face down. They made their choice. Now I'm making mine. Speaking of choices, Susan fidgeted with her coffee cup. I gave my notice today. I froze. What? You need a marketing director, don't you? Someone who knows how to position a new brand? Unless you've already filled the position. I reached across the table and grabbed her hand. Are you serious? You'd leave Wheeler and Sons? The place is a sinking ship, and I'd rather build something new with my best friend than rearrange deck chairs on the Titanic with Ernest. For the first time in months, I felt tears prick my eyes. But these were different from the angry ones I'd shed in my car that last day. These felt like hope. Well then, I said, pulling out another folder. Let me show you what I have in mind for our marketing strategy. Our marketing strategy. It felt good to say that. Your cousin Ernest just lost the Jacobson account, Susan announced, bursting into my office 6 months later. 20 years of business, gone. I looked up from my laptop, where I'd been reviewing our latest sustainability report. What happened? Failed to deliver on time 3 months in a row. Quality control issues. The usual Ernest special. She dropped into the chair across from me. But that's not even the best part. Guess who Jacobson called this morning? My eyes widened. Us. Their CEO specifically asked for you by name. Said he remembered how you handled their account at Wheeler and Sons. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Mom's number. I'd been dodging her calls for months, but something made me answer this time. Savannah, thank God you picked up. Her voice was strained. It's your grandfather. He's in the hospital. The world tilted slightly. What happened? Stress. His heart. The doctors say he needs to step back from the business immediately. She paused. Things aren't good here, honey. Ernest is... I have to go, Mom. I have a meeting. I hung up, my hands shaking. Susan watched me carefully. Bad news? Grandpa Miguel's in the hospital. I stood up, pacing. And I don't know how to feel about it. My office door opened again. Isabella, our new head of operations, poached from a rival company, entered with a tablet. Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this. Wheeler and Sons just lost their ISO certification. What? Susan and I said in unison. Failed audit. Multiple violations. Ernest apparently hadn't been maintaining the required documentation. Isabella handed me the tablet. Their stock is already dropping. I scanned the report, my stomach churning. This wasn't just bad. It was catastrophic. Without ISO certification, they'd lose half their clients within months. There's more, Isabella continued. Travis, Ernest's father, is calling an emergency board meeting. Word is they're discussing a possible sale. My phone buzzed again. A text from Ernest himself. You happy now? You've won. Come finish what you started. Susan read the message over my shoulder. He can't seriously be blaming you for his incompetence? Of course he is. I tossed my phone onto the desk. Because heaven forbid Ernest take responsibility for anything. What are you going to do? Isabella asked. I walked to my window, looking out at the city skyline. Somewhere out there, my grandfather was in a hospital bed, watching his life's work crumble. The company he'd built from nothing, destroyed by his own stubborn adherence to tradition. Schedule a meeting with our investors, I said finally. I think it's time we discussed expansion opportunities. You mean, Susan started? Yes. If Wheeler and Sons goes up for sale, we're buying it. The Wheeler and Sons conference room felt smaller than I remembered. Or maybe it was just the tension making the walls close in. I sat at one end of the long table, Susan and Isabella flanking me, while Ernest, Travis, and their lawyers huddled at the other end. Mom sat in the middle, looking between us like she was watching a tennis match. This is ridiculous, Ernest spat, throwing our proposal across the table. You can't seriously expect us to accept these terms. Those terms are generous considering your company's current position, Isabella replied coolly. You've lost major accounts, your certification, and your stock has dropped 60% in 8 months. Travis leaned forward, his face red. This is your fault, Savannah. You took our clients, poached our employees. I didn't take anything, I cut in. Your clients left because of poor service. Your employees left because of poor management. I just provided a better alternative. Ah, enough! Mom's voice cracked through the room. This isn't helping anyone. The door opened, and everyone fell silent as Grandpa Miguel was wheeled in by his nurse. He looked smaller than I remembered, frailer, but his eyes were sharp as ever as they fixed on me. "Savannah," he said, his voice rough, "you look well." "Unlike your company," I replied, then immediately regretted the harshness when I saw him wince. "Miguel, you shouldn't be here," Travis started. "The doctors said." "The doctors don't get to decide when I fight for my life's work." Grandpa Miguel wheeled himself to the head of the table. "Savannah, what are your real terms?" I pulled out a fresh copy of the proposal. "We buy controlling interest. Ernest and Travis stay on as board members, but operational control transfers to my team immediately. We restore the ISO certification, rebuild client relationships, and merge our sustainable manufacturing processes with your existing infrastructure." "And what happens to the Wheeler name?" Ernest demanded. "It stays," I said softly. "That was never in question." Grandpa Miguel studied me for a long moment. "You built your own company just to buy mine." "No, I built my own company because you didn't think I could. Buying yours is just—" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "Making things right." "By taking over?" Ernest stood up, his chair scraping back. "This is revenge, plain and simple. Sit down, Ernest," Grandpa Miguel commanded. The room fell silent again as he picked up the proposal, reading it carefully. Finally, he looked up at me. "You were always the true heir," he said quietly. "I was too blind to see it. Travis, call the board. We're accepting the offer." Ernest stormed out, Travis following close behind. But I barely noticed. I was too busy watching my grandfather's eyes fill with tears as he whispered, "I'm sorry." The first day after the merger felt surreal. I walked through the Wheeler & Sons factory floor, now mine to resurrect. Susan trailed behind me, tablet in hand, documenting everything that needed immediate attention. "The quality control systems are completely outdated," she muttered. "And these safety protocols, how did they pass any inspections?" "They didn't," Isabella said, joining us. "Ernest was bribing inspectors. Found the evidence in his email archives last night." I stopped at a workstation where an elderly employee was struggling with an ancient machine. "Hey, George, still fighting with that old beast?" His weathered face lit up. "Savannah, thank God you're back. This thing's been giving us hell since you left." "We'll have new equipment installed by next week," I promised. "How's Margaret doing?" "Better now that her medical benefits are reinstated. Ernest cut them last month, said we couldn't afford—" A commotion near the entrance interrupted us. Ernest was shoving past security, Travis trying to hold him back. "You can't just walk in here like you own the place," Ernest shouted, his face purple with rage. "Actually, I can," I replied calmly. "That's exactly how ownership works." "You think you're so clever, don't you?" He stormed toward me, swooping in to save the day after sabotaging us. "Ernest," Travis warned, grabbing his arm. "No, let him speak," I said. The factory floor had gone quiet, everyone watching. "I want to hear how I sabotaged you. Was it when you lost the Jacobson account by missing deadlines? When you failed the ISO audit because you didn't maintain proper documentation? Or maybe when you cut employee benefits without board approval? You turned everyone against me. You did that yourself." I stepped closer. "You had everything handed to you on a silver platter, and you still couldn't handle it. That's not my fault." "Miguel only sold to you because he's sick," Ernest spat. "He's not thinking clearly." "Funny, he seemed pretty clear when he signed the papers." I turned to security. "Please escort Mr. Ernest out. He can return for scheduled board meetings only." As they led him away, Travis lingered. "Savannah, I should have supported you back then." "Yes, you should have." I checked my watch. "The employee meeting starts in 10 minutes. You're welcome to stay and hear how we're going to fix your son's mistakes." He nodded slowly, defeat written across his face, and walked away. Susan touched my arm. You okay? Better than okay. I looked around at the factory floor, at the hopeful faces of employees who'd stuck through the hard times. We have work to do, let's get started. The sound of machinery hummed around us, a rhythm I'd missed more than I'd realized. It felt like coming home, but this time, on my terms. We have a problem. Isabella burst into my office, her usually calm demeanor shattered. Someone's trying to tank our stock. I looked up from the renovation plans I'd been reviewing. What do you mean? Massive sell-offs, coordinated. And there are rumors circulating about our financial stability. She handed me her tablet. Look at these posts. Anonymous accounts on investment forums were spreading lies about our company's debt, claiming we were on the verge of bankruptcy. Our stock had dropped 15% in 2 hours. Ernest, I growled. This has his fingerprints all over it. My phone rang. It was Grandpa Miguel. Have you seen the news? He asked without preamble. I'm looking at it now. Ernest is behind this. No, he sighed heavily. Travis is. Ernest doesn't have the brains for this kind of manipulation. Travis still has connections in the industry, people who owe him favors. Susan rushed in, her face pale. The bank just called. They're concerned about the merger loan. Of course they are, I muttered. That's what Travis wants. If the bank pulls our financing, we lose everything, Isabella finished. I stood up, pacing. Call an emergency board meeting, now. An hour later, the boardroom was filled with nervous energy. Travis sat there smugly, while Ernest fidgeted beside him. Mom looked sick. Let's cut to the chase, I said, standing. Travis, call off your attack dogs. I don't know what you're talking about, he smiled. Markets are volatile. Perhaps you bit off more than you could chew with this merger. Enough! Grandpa Miguel's voice boomed from the doorway. He wheeled himself in, looking stronger than he had in weeks. Travis, you're fired! The room went silent. You can't fire me, Travis sputtered. I'm a board member. Check your contract, I smiled. Specifically the clause about actions detrimental to company interests. Isabella? She distributed copies of documents we'd prepared. We have proof of your coordination with these forum posters, emails, phone records, bank transfers. Would you like me to continue? Travis's face went from red to white. Ernest started to speak, but Travis gripped his arm, silencing him. You have a choice, I said. Resign quietly, stop the attacks, and keep your reputation. Or we go public with everything, including the inspector bribes. You wouldn't, Travis whispered. It would hurt the company. Try me. I leaned forward. I built this company twice. I'll do it again if I have to. Can you say the same? The room stayed silent as Travis stood, straightened his tie, and walked out. Ernest trailed behind him like a lost puppy. Well, Susan said after they left, that was dramatic. No, I corrected her, watching our stock already beginning to recover on my laptop screen. That was justice. 6 months after Travis's departure, I stood on the factory floor watching the installation of our new solar panel system. The place was unrecognizable, modern, efficient, and actually pleasant to work in. Our stock had not only recovered, but hit record highs. Ms. Savannah? George called from his workstation. Someone here to see you? I turned to find Ernest standing awkwardly by the entrance, looking smaller somehow in casual clothes instead of his usual suits. What do you want? I asked, not bothering to hide my suspicion. Can we talk, please? His voice lacked its usual arrogance. Somewhere private? I led him to my office, where Susan was already waiting with our quarterly reports. She started to leave, but I gestured for her to stay. Dad's gone, Ernest said, sitting heavily in a chair. Left the country last night. Emptied his accounts. Disappeared. And? I kept my voice neutral. And he swallowed hard. I need a job. Susan actually laughed out loud. You can't be serious. I am. Ernest leaned forward. Look, I know I messed up. I know I was terrible at running this place, but it's still my family's company, too. The company you tried to destroy, I reminded him. That was Dad's idea. He ran his hands through his hair. All of it, the bribes, the stock manipulation, everything. I just wanted to make him proud. By destroying your grandfather's legacy? By being what everyone expected me to be. He stood up, pacing. Do you know what it's like growing up with a father who tells you you're destined for greatness, but never teaches you how to achieve it? Who hands you everything, but never shows you how to handle it? For the first time, I felt a flicker of sympathy. Why are you really here, Ernest? Because you were right, about everything. He stopped pacing. I want to learn. Actually learn from the bottom up. No shortcuts, no special treatment. Susan snorted. You want to start as a regular employee? Yes. He met my eyes. I know I don't deserve another chance, but Grandpa Miguel always said this company was about family. I'm still family, aren't I? I studied him for a long moment. The entitled cousin who'd taken everything from me was gone, replaced by someone who looked lost. Entry-level position, I said finally. Factory floor, same rules as everyone else. One strike and you're out. Really? Both Ernest and Susan looked shocked. Really? I stood up. Report to George tomorrow morning. He'll show you how to operate the machinery you never bothered to learn about before. Thank you, he whispered. I won't let you down. No, I agreed. You won't, because this time you'll have to earn everything you get. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the packed auditorium, welcome to the unveiling of Wheeler Sustainable Manufacturing's new headquarters. The crowd applauded as I cut the ribbon, officially opening our state-of-the-art facility. In the front row, Grandpa Miguel beamed from his wheelchair, looking healthier than he had in months. Mom stood beside him, wiping tears. None of this would be possible without our dedicated team, I continued, including our newest floor supervisor, who proved that it's never too late to learn and grow. Ernest, would you like to say a few words? Ernest walked up to the podium, no longer the entitled man-child he'd once been. A year of hard work on the factory floor had changed him completely. When I started here, he said, I thought I knew everything. Turns out I knew nothing. But thanks to George's patience, Isabella's guidance, and most importantly, my cousin Savannah's willingness to give second chances, I finally understand what leadership really means. After the ceremony, Grandpa Miguel wheeled over to where I stood with Susan. I have something for you, he said, pulling an envelope from his jacket. The last piece of unfinished business. Inside was a document transferring his remaining shares to me. Grandpa, you don't have to. Yes, I do. He took my hand. I should have done this years ago. You didn't just save this company, Savannah. You made it better than I ever imagined it could be. We did it together, I said, squeezing his hand. All of us. Speaking of together, Susan interrupted, pointing across the room. Look who finally worked up the courage. Ernest was talking to Isabella, his face red, as he apparently asked her something. She smiled and nodded, and his entire face lit up. Well, Mom said, joining us. That's unexpected. Good unexpected, I replied, like everything else that's happened. You know, Grandpa Miguel mused, Travis called me last week from somewhere in South America, wanted to apologize, said he was too proud to admit he was wrong. And what did you tell him? That pride comes before the fall, but humility leads to redemption. He looked meaningfully at Ernest, who was now laughing with Isabella. Some people learn that lesson faster than others. I watched our employees, my family, both old and new, celebrating together. The factory floor visible through the windows hummed with efficient, sustainable machinery. On the wall hung our latest achievement, industry leader in green manufacturing. You know what the best revenge is, Grandpa? I asked. What's that? Success, I smiled, but not the kind that tears others down, the kind that lifts everyone up with you. He patted my hand. Now that's what I call a true heir. And in that moment, surrounded by everything we'd built together, I finally felt like one.